Hello friends, today we are going to create an activity called A Night Under the Moon. But before we get into the activity, let's discuss a little more about the moon. Have you ever noticed that the moon changes shapes? If you said yes, you're almost correct. The moon does not necessarily change shapes, even though it appears that way. It actually has phases when the sun reflects light on the moon. So when the moon orbits Earth, it only shows the portion where the sunlight reflects. Let's find out a little more about the phases of the moon. It takes about 28 days for the moon to move or orbit around the Earth. When the moon is between the Earth and the sun, we have what is called a new moon, and that happens when we can't see it in the sky. Then it changes into a crescent, and this happens when the moon appears to have a little bit of sunlight. Then after a few days, we can see a half moon, also known as a quarter moon. As you might have thought, this only happens when we see half of the moon. After it orbits Earth for a few more days, we can see the gibbous moon, which is when we can see more than half of the moon. Can you name the next phase? It's the full moon. When the moon moves farthest from the sun, we can see a full moon. This is because the side of the moon facing the Earth gets all the sunlight. The nights can be very bright when we have a full moon. After this phase, it will begin its journey back to the new moon. Now we're going to discuss a short poem by Betty Sanchez called Moon Phases, so that we can hear what it sounds like to talk about the moon. The moon is a sphere, big and white. It loves to reflect the sun's bright light. It goes on a journey every 28th day around the earth, a hide and seek game it will play. In the beginning, it is new, out of sight for me and you. Then it waxes in white as it grows on its right. Waxing crescent and quarter, then gibbous too. When full, the phases are halfway through. Now it flips to the left and starts to wane as it fades away in its orbit lane. Waning gibbous in quarter, then crescent too, it completed its orbit and back to new. Now before we get into the art activity, there are a few things that we need to know. What does it mean to blend in art? Blending is a technique of gently combining two or more colors to create a gradual transition or to soften lines. As seen in the example, we have pink gradually transitioning into orange and then yellow. We also have what looks like colors from a sunset. It goes from yellow to orange, red, purple, and blue. Now let's talk about contrast. Contrast refers to the arrangement of opposite elements and effects. For example, light and dark colors, smooth and rough textures, large and small shapes. Contrast can be used to create variety, visual interest, and drama in artwork. Here we have examples of art pieces that stand out because of its smart use of contrast. Lastly, what is the difference between foreground and background? Foreground is a part in front of everything else and has the most detail. It describes the objects in the scene that are closest to you. And background is a part representing what lies behind objects in the foreground. For example, on the left painting, the foreground would be the fence and grass, while the background is a beautiful sun and sunset. Let's practice one on our own. Pause the video to find the foreground and background of this drawing. Good job! The foreground would be where the red barn is at, and the background could be the sky and the farthest hill and trees. Now that we know what blending, contrast, foreground, and background are, now we can start on our activity. Using what we learned on the moon phases and art vocabulary, we will create a scenario of what the forest could look like under a full moon. Let's get started.
Hey guys, today we're going to make a moon. So first, get a jar and use the lid, and you're going to trace the lid with a pencil, and then afterwards we're going to get paints. So we're going to use white acrylics, and then you need a lighter color and a darker color. So first we're going to get our paintbrush and we're going to begin to paint our moon white. So use circle movements with your hand to paint your moon white, and then we're going to take the lighter color and we're going to start tracing the outside of our moon with the lighter color. All right, and then you're going to want to paint just a little bit of the bottom of the moon. Not too much though. It'll blend in a little bit with the white, and then just make a big circle with big circular motions. Add a little bit of white into the circle while the paint's still wet and blend it. You can add that wherever you want. Next, we're going to use the darker color and we're going to start outlining the lighter color. In this case, I'm using green. Go back and use your lighter color and start to line the edge where the lighter color and the darker meet so that you can blend it out. Make sure to fill your whole page. You can add a little bit of the lighter color and blend it into the darker color. All right, and next we're going to get a black piece of paper and we're going to take this white pencil and draw ourselves a little house. Now cut out the house, and next we're going to start making some trees from another piece of black paper. You can do this by cutting little connected triangles or jagged zigzag shapes after folding your page in half. Next, we're going to glue down our cottage. Now we can decide where we want to place our trees. It is okay for your trees to come off the page a little bit. It gives it more of a 3D vibe. Now we're going to glue our trees down now that we've decided where we want them to go. And there you have it. We have our moon.